Okay, just quickly to go over the, our procedures and particularly with us having Zoom, people on Zoom. You start out the variance request with having the applicant come up and present their application to us, the reasons why they want the variances. The board will ask questions of the applicant. When the applicant's finished with their presentation, and we're finished questioning them, we can open it up to the audience for any questions from the audience. And that will include the people on Zoom. People on Zoom will be muted, but should indicate to Mike that they would like to speak, and he'll unmute them. After all the information's been exchanged, we'll ask if it's okay for the with the applicant to close the open hearing. And if so, we'll close that. We then have 62 days to make a decision on the application. Generally, we are able to make a decision on the same evening. Okay. First one on the agenda tonight is 3518 Sandy Beach Drive. Anthony.
Good evening. Bring up the site plan. My name is Anthony Venezia. I'm representing the LaChases on the project. We also have Raymond LaChase, which is one of the design professionals for the architecture of how the building was designed and the layout and just the architectural planning that went into this project. So the project's located on Sandy Beach. There is a current house that is there, an older cottage on the lake portion, and then on the other side of the road, on their side of the private drive, there is a larger garage. The plan is to knock down the existing cottage, and then we're going to renovate the garage. Part of this project is trying to, lower the impact to the site. The original plan was to leave the garage intact, but after going through a couple iterations of this design and where we kind of landed, we decided that we were going to shrink down the garage on the east side to be a lot lower. If you go to the next page down, it'll kind of show there. That's the plan as of right now. It's bringing that garage a little bit smaller. It'd still be a 2-car garage, so they can use it as it's been used for the last, I don't know how long it's been there, but the garage is a little bit newer. So the plan is tear down the existing cottage. Part of that is doing some stormwater management. And we are going to try to keep there's 2 larger mature trees on the lakeside. We're going to try our best to keep those. The one tree to the east of the cottage to be rebuilt is going to be torn down just because we can't save it because it's too close to the site. So the variances that we're requesting tonight is a front setback and then also a building coverage of 1.9. And then the larger of the variances, the third variance is a height variance. The reason that we're going for the height variance is due to the elevation of the site. We have to bring it up that 2 feet above flood. So in that case, we have to bring it up about 3.5 feet above grade just to our first floor. And instead of bringing in dirt and mounding it up to try to get our height lower just by bringing up dirt and displacing floodwaters, we decided it'd be better for the site and for surrounding properties that we try to take the variance. So the house is lower, is not as high as 25 feet. It's, from first floor to the main peak, but because we have to elevate it to get it out of that 2 foot above flood, that's kind of pushing us to that 3 foot higher than that 25 that we're allowed. But that's due to the FEMA rule and being 2 feet above flood. So those are where we stand with variances. If there's any questions, we can answer.
Board members, any questions?
The current buildings are all within code. There's no variances that are pre-existing.
They're not within code, but they're not. They're pre-existing non-conforming. So it's
Standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're actually bringing it more in conforming with side setbacks and bringing away from the lake. So, but we are above the building coverage. We did do a significant to keep under the lot coverage. So, but as you can see, it's only about the existing cottage, I think 2 or 3 feet away from it. So it's really narrow between it. So we are going to more centralize the new structure on the site to get us away from those side setbacks.
Okay. And the lakeside, you're not going.
Yeah, no, we're staying. We're right up against that 30 feet is what we're allowed. So we're not including, encroaching onto that. Also, we're trying to stay away from those two mature trees up front.
With respect to the height variance, I understand, trying to keep the grade where it is. Other aspects of that, ceiling heights, can those be moderated some?
I can have Raymond talk about that. Also, do you have there's a sketch in there that shows kind of like a digital representation of the front of the house? So you can kind of get a feel for what it looks like. We're not, with design ways, we're not doing a big peaked roof. It's more of a slope, a shallow sloping roof. But Raymond can talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. As Anthony had mentioned, we've made some pretty big efforts to try to minimize what the height impact is on the structure here, knowing that we've got limitations. So I mean, you can see that the peak of the roof line is very minimal. We're proposing to do a sort of a butterfly roof shape. So the height that you see of the top of the roof in this image is the peak height of the roof. One discrepancy that you should note with this view being from the lake is that the roof structure over the back porch has actually been removed. So that is no longer existing as part of our plan for the exterior of the building.
Back porch meaning
The porch that you see there, that concrete structure
west side.
with the stairs. So the porch itself is going to remain, but those columns and low roof structure have been removed from the project.
To be an open patio more than a
Okay.
covered terrace.
Correct.
Still part of the building.
Yeah, so,
What's the additional square footage on this compared to what was existing?
So the total square footage is about 2,300 square feet over 2 floors.
the cover page, there's a breakdown of it. So the existing building was 853, and the new building is 1,800 footprint. Is that what it is? 1,800 footprint?
The footprint should be a bit less than that.
Okay. Might be, I can't read it. It's like maybe it's a little bit broken. So I think we're adding about 1,000 square feet to the building,
Yeah, about that.
footprint wise.
One of the things we're also consider is how it affects the neighborhood and does it fit into the neighborhood, and it look like that'll be higher than the houses around it in the picture.
By a few feet, but part of the reason for that, as Anthony had mentioned, is due to the FEMA requirement that we need to raise the house to be 2 feet above the floodplain. If you look at the adjacent houses, those houses are not conforming to that requirement, or they don't need to meet it. So it's a little bit of a unique circumstance for this site that it happens to fall within the floodplain to the point that we need to make some drastic modifications to the structure that we typically wouldn't have to make if we didn't have that issue.
How much did you say that would again was off the ground?
3.5 feet almost.
3.5.
So that was when the building was originally designed, it was under the zoning, but as soon as we gave the survey and all the elevation data to Raymond, I was like, just so you know, we have to bring it up to, 694 plus or minus, but that isn't, and that's, we're at like 691. So instead of like with having like impact on the neighborhood visually there, but we were worried more of the impact of displacing floodwaters was the big thing. And that's why we came to the zoning board, because instead of trying to mound some dirt up and lower that was kind of the opposite way we wanted to go and not have any negative effect on the surrounding area. Because that water, if we did mount it up, would go somewhere.
Hey, Mike,
Probably not significant, but it is displacing.
what, we've had houses down there in the past. I don't recall the 2-foot floodplain. We had,
I think we've had.
Issues.
one or
What do
two
we do?
others, Yeah.
what did we do in the past? I mean, I'm kind of curious as to, because this is not a new project. We've had projects over there
I don't believe we've given any height variances on.
because of
side
that.
the
That's
way.
what I'm kind of
There's
wondering.
one
What
on
other,
Fallbrook.
did
At
we
the
grant a
last house
variance
on Fallbrook, there was a variance, and it was similar because.
for the floodplain issue?
Yeah, we worked on
I
it.
vaguely remember a floodplain
I think it was
issue, but
Russ Brandon's home at the end of the turnaround. I believe that was a while ago, so I don't know exactly.
it was
Say that
probably
was-
2
that's
years,
It was
maybe.
a while, yeah, it was a
years
while
ago.
ago, but I remember that was one of our issues. That was whole, you know, we had peaked roofs and everything. We
Yeah,
didn't-
because I don't remember us with the.
The design didn't really
flood
take it.
plain.
You know, effect of the height, we just kind of had with us. So,
You don't recall any, like, what did we do in that case?
I don't know, but I don't think that there was any, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea of what he's talking about,
Right.
but I don't think it's been done. Mike, is it possible to scroll to the north, just to get a character of of how this looks to the rest of the neighborhoods, particularly
On
the.
this picture, this.
Not on
I
that
think there's
picture,
another,
but
there's another aerial image that's more zoomed out, should be in that same package.
I've ever here too.
It might have been in the perspective
I
drawing.
I think it might have been in the same.
It's
PDF.
not-
Yeah, it's probably just a.
Second picture.
Yes,
Ah.
there you go.
Yeah. So you do have a house that's relatively at a higher peak to the north 3 or 4 placements.
The one,
You can kind of see just to the west. of the
3 door,
picture.
2 doors, 3 doors down.
The one next to it looks fairly high when you drive by it.
Yeah, that one. So I know that was redone a couple of years back, but they did
If
So-
there's any variance with that.
no, they came in, I remember doing some work on it and they did they
The porch.
gutted it,
Right?
but they did it to a certain thing where they weren't exceeded the
Mhm.
50% value of the structure. They just kind of slid under that to be able to keep it at that elevation.
Yeah.
Without that, like if someone was gonna go through any of those houses and do like a major renovation, I mean,
Libya.
they would be in the same kind of boat where they would have to, you know, they wouldn't be able to renovate a lot of those homes because of value wise, they'd have to bring it up to be 2 feet above flood. And that whole area is between 690 and 691, and we have to be at 694. So you're talking 3 feet no matter what. So that 25.
Well, I know
is a push.
it's shallow, like I know that the floods over in that area for sure, so I didn't know.
Well, and this is nowhere near comparable to Fallbrook. Fallbrook doesn't have this problem.
Not like, yeah,
They don't, this
They don't have
got
a
it, this
flood.
has a little bit more of a problem. Fallbrook is a little bit higher, just in
Right,
general.
that's what I'm saying. I don't think.
You know, typically.
Golf.
These homes are a little bit lower.
yeah,
So how about ceiling heights?
So the ceiling heights that we currently have, on the first floor is a 10-foot ceiling height, and then on the second floor is I believe it's a 9-foot ceiling height. And those were the requests of the client, you know, they feel very strongly about having a ceiling height within that height range. And that was part of the reason why, you know, trying to make such a conscious effort of reducing and minimizing the impact of, you know, the shape of our roof on this building, knowing that, you know, we have this height issue that we're trying to mitigate as best as we can.
So if you drop the 10 foot to 8 foot, 9 foot to 8 foot. you got
or a
three-
9 and 8 even.
3 of your feet back. I mean, it may not be possible for them to have everything we want,
Well, this is true.
you know.
I don't disagree with you. It is possible that we might be able to reduce those ceiling heights a bit. You know, it has been a bit of an effort to get this house to conform just based on everything that the client is looking for, with all of the zoning requirements that the site, you know, demands. You know, if we do need to manipulate the ceiling height a little bit, in order to get this to work, that is something that we could potentially explore. You know, if we could potentially meet in the middle and say, if it's 9 feet and 8 foot, or, you know, 9 foot and 8'6" or something like, you know, if we can reduce it to an amount that's satisfactory to everybody, I think that's something that the client would be willing to negotiate on.
Yeah, the zoning requirements are hard because it's a small lot. And, you know, it's in the floodplain.
Height is a big thing for
And,
around the
height
lake,
has always been a major issue for us around the lake.
very much.
And in terms of the lot coverage.
We're under lot coverage, we're
I mean,
over,
building.
yeah,
coverage.
we're over,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you got the big area up on the
We have the garage and we're taking off a big chunk of the garage to conform.
building coverage. Mike, could I see the site plan?
I know we've approved some different variances
Yeah, we
down
were,
there.
we've
for-
done significant, from the original plan, we've
Right.
significantly, the only thing that we haven't really dived in real deep, what we were talking about was height, everything else we've significantly changed.
Yeah, because I mean, you're not exceeding, I mean, you see the house next to it, it's huge, right? I
Yeah,
mean, like, and it's
Yeah,
on. the
there's
property, you're not-
some, you know, larger.
Right,
homes in
the
that
height
area.
thing is gonna,
Okay,
yeah,
and like the front setback, because it's, you know, just the nature of that private drive in general is.
Right.
Most of the houses in there don't conform to the front setback.
How many square feet of building coverage are you over?
That's a good question.
It's about 1.9%.
It's 1.9%, but I don't know the calculation of it.
It's on that.
Site plan.
it can't be any more than the neighboring properties.
I think it just
It is
needs to
on
be
focus.
zoomed in and it'll clean itself up. And there you go. So we dropped the garage from 850 to 580, so we took a big chunk out of the garage. And that's right where the garage, you know, we took this space out of the garage to the point where you could still use it as a 2-car garage and you're not, you know,
Right,
trying to get around it. It's a comfortable, still a comfortable sized garage to be usable and not totally useless for vehicle parking.
Anywhere else on the house you could gain. It's gonna keep getting- You've got a full terrace in back. Can that be adjusted at all?
The terrace has gotten a little bit tight because of the change in height elevation, which introduced the need to have a stair to get you down from the terrace. And so the stair does a decent amount into the usable area of that terrace. You know, it's not just a big open terrace. It could potentially be manipulated a little bit, but we would have to chop that, almost have to
It has
completely
been,
eliminate
yeah.
that terrace in order to get compliant.
no. I don't really have any. I'm assuming, I mean, like the coverage in this area, I mean, you've got neighbors next door, you know that there's other areas that have been, they're probably larger in lot coverage.
Right, yeah.
Percentages. That's, I don't know if that's, you know, a big thing. The height though, is that higher than, is that literally gonna be taller than every one of them out there, every other house?
Within a couple of houses, north or south, yes, it would be the taller of the homes, because nothing in that. When you come down Sandy Beach, take a left, nothing
Right.
really in that, except for the end house, that's a ranch, has been redone.
Yeah, but that one's been done for a while, like,
The one at the end was 3 or 4 years ago, I think, but.
I'm just curious as to see what would prove. I know that height is a big thing for us, for
I
outrun.
mean, we could definitely take a look at the heights and also see anything on Sandy Beach that's got a variance in the last, call it 5 years.
That would
We
be
could
a-
foil it and see, just to kind of understand a little bit more.
I think that would be helpful, for sure. But that's up to you guys.
The size of the lot is pretty, they're pretty comparable down through there, aren't they? It's just, it's not really small, it's not, I mean, it looks like it's very comparable to them.
So the neighbor.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard lot there. And then
Yeah.
also, if you look at like the aerial, if you go south of us, most of the properties in the south, when you get it, like, are paved.
Yeah,
I mean, that 130, what is 62, it's literally at 80% coverage.
Yeah.
I mean, they paved the whole
that wasn't
east side
us.
of it, you know, but I mean, it's, so it's, When we're
was what I
talking about like
said.
lot coverage and things of that nature,
Exactly.
it's not. It's probably way less than most of the
Right.
places that have been done or redone, as you can see.
Well, and as you know, I mean, obviously the codes have changed and stuff, so we're trying to make sure
Right,
that we're
yeah.
not.
Right, we believe that 1.9 is not a huge over
Right.
ask. So. And even the property to the north is all, you know, they have all that pavement.
Anything else you want to present?
That's it, I mean, I think we probably maybe table it and talk to a client about height.
Well, why don't we see if we have anything from the audience?
Okay, yeah.
And then we
Absolutely.
can talk about whether you want
The property, yeah,
okay. Any questions from the audience, either here or on Zoom?
No. Paul Williams, 3540 Sandy Beach Drive.
Do you have any comments, sir?
No, we're just here for information. We have no complaints or comments.
Okay.
That's good to know.
I mean, we have two options. One, we can close the public hearing now and vote on what we presented. What I'm hearing you say is there may be some way to perhaps lessen or get rid of the height variance. And
Or bring us some new information.
yeah, bring us some new information. on
Yeah, I
it.
mean, we probably should look into that just because I'm guessing
Yeah.
we're not get tight, so. There's really no reason to
That would
vote on it.
So we can
tonight,
leave
so we can
leave
table
the public hearing open and have you come back.
Yeah, that's, we can,
Is that good?
that's fine by us. Give us a little
Hopefully
homework.
make the decision then.
That's fine.
That's gonna be approved.
Alright. Is that wine?
All right,
Okay.
yeah,
So
thank you very much.
we'll adjourn the public hearing now and we'll plan on hearing again in a month.
Okay,
See you next week.
Okay.
For next
Sounds
month.
Okay.
Next
perfect.
month.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next one, 3536 Hickox Road. Yes, sir.
Sean Elson, I propose building a shed for more storage. It's a 12-20 shed at the end of my driveway. I'm just looking to get more storage. I happen to buy a smaller vehicle that fits in my garage. And now I'm spoiled to keep the vehicles in the garage. I want to be
There you
able to get my storage back that I had in the garage. So, if you look at the picture, I think, I had another picture, but I think it's a survey map there. I don't remember which one it was under. Shows a drawing. That's somewhere in there. My variance, I think, is 60 foot. And I'm asking for another 10 foot to line up. You'll see in that one picture right there. Where it says new shed, it's 50 foot from the variance. Yours is, I believe, 60 foot for that, and that's where I'm asking for that 10 feet. So it lines up with my driveway turnaround area. Yep.
Just had a question. Maybe I was looking at the diagrams wrong, but the double door for a car looked like it was facing out to the road.
Yeah, that's my garage.
Okay, yeah, but I mean,
On the new
Um,
shed.
you know, on the new shed, it looked like the double door.
No, in my plans, it says that was, so that other shed I built 2016 or so. I'm using the same plans because it's the same exact shed, but on my plans, I said doors and windows may change.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't draw up new drawings. I'm using the existing drawings. You said in one of these drawings, it was showing the doors a different spot, right?
So the double doors would be facing the driveway.
Facing the driveway, correct.
Okay,
Yep.
I was just confused.
I go back and forth on this, and I think too much about it, and I'm like, where do I wanna put the doors? Here, so
So the other
it might
one,
change.
the other one is a shed too, you said?
That one back there, yep. 2017, I think I built that one.
I know
It'd
that,
be exactly the same as that shed, just put in a different location.
Mike, any difference whether this is a shed or a garage?
Not in this,
not that,
And how about being in front of the household?
Yeah.
that's the variance he needs.
right.
Because it's,
Well, what about as
He
an
needs a
extra
Distance and.
and a second accessory?
no, it's just, and nothing can be in front of the house. Anything
Right.
Can't be in front of the house closer than 60 feet, so. because
Right.
whatever's gonna happen is gonna be-
But would it be, is it a second accessory structure though?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't matter in that zone? Okay. All right, well, good.
And I'm looking, it looks like, I can't remember whether it was north or south of that, but there's one house that's really close to the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a house out there, is it, which, we're on, okay, never mind, wasn't it?
Right there.
Yeah,
And there's a barn up this way, which is really close to the road too, up the other way.
that shed's in front of the house over there.
Almost to the end, that's 21 there.
I think the neighbor, the one that's really close to the road that's next to me would like to build a garage too, but I think. I'm not sure where he would
Just wait to
build
see
it.
if you get approved first.
Yeah, Cause I talked to him, cause I originally was gonna build back just a touch, which
Uh-huh.
would make me do a variance on his property.
Okay,
But I'm right at the
So the
20
lot
foot,
line.
I'm like at 20'4" for that. So I didn't need to ask for a variance on that one.
right across the street, there's one with a garage in front, ish, shedish.
Any question? Excuse me.
All right.
All right.
I'm gonna Stop drop, I got an extra one.
I got one.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
it's that type of season, yeah.
More questions?
Is any questions? You good?
Any questions from the audience? You have anything additional you want to add to what?
I'm sure once I walk out the door, I'll have something.
Probably.
No, not at this time.
Can we close the public hearing then? Are you okay with that?
Good with it.
We'll close the public hearing. We have 62 days to make a decision. Likely we'll make it tonight. You're welcome to stay around for our discussion if you wish.
Okay,
Otherwise, you can get the mic tomorrow.
okay,
Thank you.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, next one's 3862 Chatham Lane.
Sorry, I'm freezing. I'm amazed you guys aren't.
I'm freezing, trust me.
Okay. I just having a generator put next to my house and we wanted it a little closer and kind of in some bushes. And my neighbor right across the way, I'm on Chatham Lane, so there's a little strip of land and he's fine with it. He has a generation himself. Or generator, and I think several neighbors also have generators that they must have had variances because they're pretty close to the house. So I don't know about this whole process about Anderson Water and Power is kind of doing most of the work for me.
Sorry.
Anderson Water and Power is doing most of the footwork for this, so just to note show.
Towards the back there on the side.
You didn't happen to get any letters or anything from the neighbors, did you? By chance?
No, my neighbors. I asked my neighbor who would be seeing it. Can't even see it. There's no window there, but he's fine with it because he's got one himself.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. We should. Yeah, that's his neighborhood, right?
It's actually kind of tucked in some bushes, so you wouldn't even really
It's
see
sort
it.
of behind those bushes. Any other place you could put it that wouldn't require.
No, and they wanted it close to the circuit breaker box, so that's the closest as far as what side of the house. You don't want it in the front, you don't want it in the back, because I've got a closed porch. It's really the least obnoxious place to put it. Just wish I had it 2 years ago when we had the blackout over Christmas. That was interesting.
The heat pump to the left there.
A mini split.
Bushes will remain the.
You're just gonna cut out some of the bushes, but I'm gonna leave it on either side.
Have you got nat gas there? Is that what this will be?
I'm sorry,
Is this nat gas, natural gas generator?
I honestly don't know. They're just kind of taking.
There's
care
not
of
another
it.
tank, a propane
Yeah,
tank
No,
or
no, no,
anything
no,
like that?
No, I have gas in there.
Is there looking for coming in?
Yeah, like a gas
Gas
fireplace.
meter.
Well, that's a little bit too much evidence.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I just always ask
Yeah,
is
definitely.
if we
No,
have
no,
another
tank.
propane tank.
Yeah.
Come
No, that's that's
Okay.
where air
No, that's-
conditioning's right there.
Right.
on your mini split when necessary.
Right. I get it there.
Questions?
Like fuel oil, what they have, name or something.
Any questions from our dwindling audience?
$670.
Anybody on Zoom have any questions? You satisfied with what you presented and going to close the public hearing?
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll go ahead and do that. As I said, we have 62 days to make a decision, but I suspect we'll make it tonight.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, the next one is 3729 County Road 16. Rear setback, and lot coverage. Yes, sir.
Good evening, I'm Greg McMahon with McMahon LaRue. We're representing the owners, the Horings, and also the architect's design works for this. Let me first start out, we're going to withdraw the application for coverage. We've revised our plans. We're going to be eliminating a large section of deck on the northeast side of the house. It'll actually bring us to less than existing coverage. So we're just here tonight seeking a setback variance from the mean high water of Canandaigua Lake. So the setback is 60 feet. We're requesting a 50-foot setback. The existing house is closer. So we are not forward or towards the lake than the existing house is. But we are within that 60-foot setback. The architect, I know one of the questions has been, are there any other options for the location of this? It's just a single bedroom addition to the house. And the architect has looked at several positions, including ones that didn't require the variance, but from an architectural standpoint, there were some issues with massing, things that I don't claim to have great knowledge, but I did bring some copies of an email and some sketches from the architect of options that they've looked at, just so you know that we're just not saying that this is our only alternative. They did address some other ones. So that's really what we're just requesting, that lakeside setback variance for this this is, it's a one-bedroom addition. We're not disturbing, removing any trees on the site. We're addressing stormwater. All these issues will be brought up when we do appear before the planning board for site plan approval.
Where on the plan are you taking the deck off?
Northeast, I'm sorry, northeast corner of the house. It's right, as Mike's pointing to, that it's a shaded in a lighter line. That deck is going to be removed. All of that deck in that in the corner of the house right there.
And that takes it down.
It's about 500 feet, approximately 500 square feet of deck. Takes us down, there's the table on the plan, but it takes us to less coverage than is currently. I don't apologize, I don't have the numbers right now, but it would be on the site plan, the second. If you could write and recite data, if you could load that up there. Building coverage, lot coverage, required is 25, existing is 24.6. And we're at 20, with this addition, we'll be at 24.2%. So we're reducing it by about 100 square feet.
Mike, on the distance to the lake. It's not changing, is it?
No, that's the only variance. They don't even know.
The ECB strongly recommended against this due to this.
Well, I think they were strong.
Changes addressed that, or-
They strong, well, I think they certainly strongly recommended against the coverage variance. But as far as the setback, they acknowledged that maybe there were some alternatives, but from an architectural standpoint, it is a rather unique house, and you know, it's the architect did consider a number of options for this addition, and it was felt from an architectural standpoint that this was the best location.
I guess what I'm just wondering, it's non-conforming in terms of lake setback. It's not worse,
But they're not even worse.
but it's not better.
The lake setback?
Yeah.
They're currently at. Their existing is. 39.87, closest 39.87. And with that, you're measuring that from the deck, right? To the mean high water mark,
Yeah,
so that's the 50 feet, so it's staying the same, we're not making.
You know, I guess. If we're not making it worse, does it need a variance?
They're rebuilding, yeah.
Okay, okay, better than that, okay. Questions? Okay. Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience? Anybody at home have any questions? Hearing none, if you're comfortable with what you presented, we can go ahead and close the public hearing.
yes, we are.
62 days to make a decision. We'll try to make it tonight. You're welcome to stay around for any discussion.
Okay, well, I'll probably give Mike a call tomorrow.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next one is 4771 County Road 16. number of variances, or I'll have you go ahead and
Yeah.
state those. There's
Well,
That's a lot.
there are quite a few variances. There are some variances that are associated with the existing structure. And I met with the planning board. I'm Scott Harder, by the way. I'm the engineer for the project representing the owners. Met with the planning board recently, and since that meeting, we're working to reduce the need for those variances associated with the structure. Trying to make our new setbacks no worse than the current setbacks that are there right now. No more addition to the nonconformity. The real challenge to the project, I believe, is the wastewater system located on the parcel across the street, which we learned as we got into the project carries a different zoning classification than the lake fronting parcel.
They're
The-
two separate parcels.
Yeah, say that again.
They're two different zones.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
one,
okay.
Same parcel.
yeah, it's the same parcel, but it has two zoning classifications, and
Okay.
it wasn't until I really zoomed in on your zoning map that I was able to see this and verify what Mike had told me. That it's kind of a zoning anomaly. I would say the parcel across the way is an RR3 zoning. We are RLD zoning on the lakeside. The parcel immediately to the south of us is RLD, and what we're proposing to do is very similar to what they did back in 2006, which is a tear down rebuild of the existing residence. And then a wastewater system on the other side of the street behind the garage. That's exactly what you see there today. So we have tested the soil on the street side parcel. We have come up with some results that enable us to put a wastewater system in there. And I don't know, Mike, if you want to zoom in on our site plan to show them what we're proposing and why we're requesting the setback variances that we're requesting, but yeah, that's pretty good right there, I think. The upper drawing, which is the utility plan, shows a series of dispersal lines for the wastewater system. The residence is currently on holding tanks. So we have no existing leach field to improve. We are starting from scratch, and that's what makes this a very challenging project. The approval for the system will come through the state health department. I've been working with Tyler, who witnessed the testing that we did this past summer. And in order to agree with the state health department requirements, we have to have no greater than 15% slope on the surface of the dispersal area. So given the grade difference from the end of the slope to the top of the slope, we have about a 25% average grade across there. So what we do is we put retaining walls in and we essentially step our system up to match not only the lower grade, but also the upper grade. I did a response letter to the town trying to reply to the Environmental Conservation Board that objected to the steep slopes. I indicated that really the steepest slope is around the existing garage because they simply excavated around the garage and didn't backfill it. But the land slope as it is right there is about 25%. And when we're done, the slope will still mimic exactly what's there. The difference will be that the vegetation will be removed in order to put that system in. I also provided the town with a letter that showed a photograph, an aerial photograph of 4962 Westlake Road that I did recently, where we had almost identical slopes and soils, and we used the retaining wall system that I'm proposing here. I understand that the vegetation needs to be removed in order to put that system in. We've retained a landscape architect to represent us and to come up with a good design for replacement. Trees and landscaping, not only on the street side, but on the lake side as well. we would like to return, or I would like to return, with the landscape architect and the architect to give you more detail on that. We're still making a few adjustments to the plans and would like to not have you decide on our application tonight, but rather if you would give us a continuation to the next available meeting, we would like to come back with more information for you that way. We'd like to have it all part of the record.
Reading through the ECB minutes, I mean, the question, they were talking about a number of different types of septic systems, the mound type,
Mhm.
the aerobic,
Correct.
I think. They're more up in Vermont, they take up a lot less space.
Well, yeah, I saw that, and believe me, I researched in high detail. Our options for what's there, which relates to not only the slope, but also the soil characteristics. And I'm aware of the peat system, and in fact, after I got the comment from the planning board, I contacted Tyler. And he verified what I was familiar with, which is that the peat systems are acceptable under a repair scenario. If we had an existing system and it was failing and we needed to upgrade it, but we didn't have a lot of room, we could go with a peat system and do the best we could with what we had. That's not our situation here. Our situation is, this has never had a septic system. So we have to build a system that's in conformance with the current DOH regulations that cause us to do that. Believe me, I don't enjoy making a system with, this is not an inexpensive system by any stretch of the imagination, not to mention the amount of.
No.
How did they get around that? I mean, because if it's, I mean, how did, so they don't have anything, the holding tanks, right? I mean, that's what you said. What were they doing before? I'm just
You
curious.
know, I don't know. Sometimes I stumble across these.
Well, that's kind of what
Well, sometimes there is what George Barden used to call cheater pipes.
There you
go. But if you go down into Woodville's all on holding tanks.
Is that really?
You know, I did a couple projects down there and boy,
Yikes.
there was not much opportunity, to say the least.
How'd it smell?
Well, they just pump it out and it gets kind of expensive and it's kind of
Oh, yeah.
annoying.
And
And I have done several projects in this, I'll call it neighborhood. And many of these lots are smaller than some of the others and the wastewater systems are shoehorned in there, for lack of a better description. We're actually doing one that I think will be very effective and functional. But in order to satisfy DOH, I looked at the mound systems as well. The mound system has an even more specific requirement relating to slopes. Because yes, a mound system is much more compact, if you can get it to work, but I couldn't get the mound system to fit on there. So the system that I have is technically called an alternative system, and it is effectively an aerobic system of sorts because it helps aerate the wastewater that goes into the system. And based on the absorption ability of the soil that we tested and verified with Tyler, this is what we end up with in terms of size. And we just barely get it in there. And also the system has been designed so that it can be accessed and maintained. And the garage, which is to be rebuilt, will be a portion of the retaining wall system that actually holds it up. It's the best design that I could come up with for a land parcel of this size with these constraints.
The aerobic systems can be used with retaining walls as well.
Mhm.
Have you looked into that at all? I mean, it can be used with retaining walls, but
This is passive aerobic right here. This is passive. There's active with air injection, and then there's a system. This is an Elgin system that allows for air to go through it as well. And there's also a Presby system which sizes exactly the same way. You know, if the town engineer or anyone on the town staff wants to identify a system that is better and more compact to me, I'll be happy to research it
Yeah, right.
and try it, but I did quite a lot of research and I've been doing this for quite a while now.
We could just send Mike over with some buckets every once in a while. Give me a new title.
I know that, I saw a letter that came in from the neighbor. I think it came in maybe a day or two ago, maybe 4 days ago. And the neighbor, they're not happy with what we're doing, but one thing that I wanted to add in our defense, I guess, is I posted this evening some aerial photographs from 2006 and 2009. So if you sort by, it would be photograph. And it might be on the other one. Could be on, they're two of those workplaces for us.
I can see the neighbor letter in there. I don't know why mine's not showing.
That came in just today.
No, did it? Okay.
Photograph of the existing site. So if you would do me a favor and click on that, please. Okay, so, well, this is actually 2009. And that's the tennis court directly above us. And there's our garage down at the bottom. And that was all wooded previous to that. And the tennis court and the resulting flatness of the tennis court and the steep slope that it creates on the uphill side are very evident from that photograph.
Right.
We aren't flattening our site. We are keeping it at a 15% grade, and we will match the grade as we step up. We're not doing that. And I thought it was really important to show you this picture for contrast and maybe a little bit of irony with respect to the comment from the neighbor, because what we're being, I would say, criticized for is something that was done right next to us. And we're not flattening our site. If you would go, Mike, to the 2006 aerial, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. There's 2006, there's the same site. There's no tennis court there. And there's all kinds of trees and there's all kinds of slope. It's the same slope. And that also depicts our neighbor to the south and what they're doing. You'll notice in that photograph in 2006 that they're doing a tear down rebuild of their cottage, I guess I would call it. And they're placing their garage on the other side of the road as we're doing, and the leach field is behind the garage. Whether you're their engineer or whether you're me, there's not a lot of options with this property, and our neighbor to the south is a real good example of someone who faced the same situation as I'm facing. So I thought it was important to show you that.
Your client doesn't own the tennis court.
I'm sorry?
Your client doesn't own the tennis court.
No, the tennis court, however, represented comparatively a much more intense excavation because the
No,
tennis
I
court.
understand.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking if he owns a tennis court, well, there's your solution. I didn't think it was part of, when I looked, I couldn't see.
Well, another thing that the ECB referenced themselves to an Encore map. And the Encore map showed a consistently steep slope across here. So if you look at that map, you would think this is all steep. That's another reason why I wanted to bring in the tennis court to this, because that map is incorrect. It doesn't show the tennis court, and the tennis court actually benefits us because it intercepts water coming down the hill towards us, and it routes it around the tennis court because they don't want it on the tennis court when they're playing tennis, right? So that's the Encore map, and you'll see no tennis court there. But if you go to my map, you'll see it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that the board, both you folks and the planning board, have, full understanding of our neighborhood and what we're working with.
So where does the tennis court drainage go?
The tennis court drainage goes along the south side. There's a boulder wall along the west side of the tennis court, and then there are drains that come underneath the south side, and they discharge out onto our property along our south boundary line there. And that route is going to be preserved. that's another reason why our system is designed the way that it is. There's also a pipe that goes underneath about the center of the tennis court, and that drainage flows along our north line. So our system fits in between that, and we're going to preserve those two drainage routes. But
What property are those? What property is the tennis court go to?
that
Is that, oh, okay,
it goes to,
that one?
yeah, that one right there.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
I guess a lot of the complaints about the water covering down in storm events is actually more related to the tennis court.
Well, it's certainly going to have a lot more velocity coming down that steep slope there than anything that we're going to create. And once again, we aren't creating a flat surface. We are stepping the surface in order to put in our system, which is somewhat modular in nature. In terms of the overall average slope, when we're done, if you take a look at what the grade is at the beginning and the grade at the end, it'll be the same. The only difference is that for a while, we won't have much vegetation there. It'll be stark. I will grant you that.
You can't allow a whole lot of vegetation to grow anyway.
No, on top of the dispersal area, it has to be lawn. But what our landscape architect has designed, surrounding trees and shrubbery. And also along the highway boundary or the right of way, he has plantings proposed for there.
And you're gonna bring us back information?
Yes, we'd like to return with
Okay,
more information and hopefully more justification for what we're doing. And I think prior to that, I'll submit our revised plan to Mike, and he can take a look at it and confirm that we have reduced many of the house variances, if not all the house variances.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Which was going to reveal my ignorance here, which has happened before here. But anyway, in this different zoning code, that's not in the RLD,
Mhm.
can I assume you are not allowed to flatten that parcel? You cannot make that level.
No, steep slopes are all protected in many.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I don't think we intended to do that. But I guess it kind of begs the question for the tennis court, because I think they're in the RR3. But no, as I understood what Mike sent me, the town is very sensitive to the steep slopes. Bear in mind also, I know we all look at these drawings and it's a little hard to judge scale. I believe the land parcel on the street side is about 7,000 square feet in area. We're not talking a very
Right.
large parcel here. We're working with small.
not
chunks
anything
of
that
land.
could be done anything with. That's what you should-
So if you folks would allow us to come back, and by all means, keep the public hearing open if you would like, that's certainly fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Comfortable with it?
Any other questions you have for him tonight?
Not for me.
Let me see if we have any questions
Sure.
from the audience. Are there any questions from the audience on Zoom?
Yes. Tammy, did you talk or?
Tammy hasn't spoken yet.
Oh, okay, this is Chelsea and Heather. We're the owners of the tennis court in 4764 County Road 16. We did send in a letter January 17th, which I'm assuming with the holiday and everything, it probably was delivered this morning to everyone. It's not that letter. There should be one other one. And for us, we're mainly really just concerned with the details of the drawing and the variances and how close it is to our property. Like I believe it's a 2-foot setback where normally it's, there's a much larger setback that is required. Yep, there's our letter.
Yeah, we would have more detail in terms of landscaping.
Yes,
They're asking you.
with respect to the 2 foot setback along the tennis court side. The purpose of that retaining wall is to help deflect drainage around the system, and at that particular location, there's kind of a steep incline that goes up to the tennis court, and it seemed protective to us to do that. I mean, this is just a retaining wall. It isn't a house. Its appearance is going to be negligible. I don't think it's going to, create any problem. It's there really just to help maintain the stability of the slope and to allow us to put in the system that we're proposing at the slopes that we're proposing. If we were to remove that one, then we'd have to taper the slope more. I think that, I don't know that we would gain much by that. I think it would scrunch us and give us less room for the wastewater system, and we'd have to expand it further to the north and south where we currently have an access way to get to the system for maintenance and such.
How high are the walls?
At each step, about 2 to 3 feet. And the walls, depending on what material they're made of, I would recommend concrete for its longevity. They can be landscaped, they can be decorated, concrete can be tinted. It could be made less noticeable, which I could appreciate. I'm sure if I were a neighbor.
Yeah, it'd be good to have that information available.
Okay, sure. And yeah, I mean, sequentially, we don't do a lot of construction details on the walls and that sort of thing until we get a little further into the planning and review process. Once we know that what we propose is generally acceptable, then we'll go to the next step and get more details there. But certainly, whether we tint the concrete to make it more of a natural color, that's certainly something that's achievable, and I've done it before, and it works.
Scott, I got another ignorant question to ask. Are you telling me that nowhere in the town, and Mike, maybe you can answer it as well. Grant, this is new to me. I mean, I've been on this board quite a long time and I've never seen this issues with the septic system, frankly, the one that never had one.
Mhm.
So, new area.
Mhm.
But if you have a slope, you have a pitch, and you had to put a leach line in, as whatever, if you size this, whatever the size of the house, they're gonna leach, they're gonna design a system. You can't drop step, the leach bed might be down 15 feet. And then the next one might be, corresponding to correspond with the slope. You can't do that in this town?
Well, it's not so much the town as that the characteristic of the soil is you get the best results from the soil in the upper layer of the soil. The first 2 feet is generally
More
the area of the
permeable.
soil. It contains topsoil and some subsoil. That's where you're gonna get your treatment of the wastewater that you put into it, the effluent. If you go down deep, as you go further into the soil, it becomes more and more compact, less porous, and also it's subject to groundwater intrusion when you get down that deep.
Well, I understand that, but the theory is that this all perks down anyway, and it's absorbed in the ground area around it before it gets to the lake.
Right.
And the fact that if you're up high, it's all done with gravel and everything else. I'm just wondering, looking at the design, and obviously you're telling me it can't be done, but I can't imagine the cost of running concrete, retaining walls I understand what you're trying to accomplish, and I've seen that. There's a place that we did along by the lake shore there was no other where to go, but it just seems like if you have to maintain the slope, fine, but it seems.
Well, what we're doing in this particular case is as we step, we're not cutting away the slope, we're building on top of it. We're going to have.
Right.
We're gonna use that 2 foot of native soil that's there now as it is. And we're gonna build on top of it with specialized fill. And we're gonna step it
Okay.
along the way. But I might, Mike, if you might pull up that letter that I generated to you in response to your question about steep slopes. I mean, just to answer this gentleman's question, I think there's some good.
It's in the other one.
Is it in the other one yet? I get them mixed up.
Yeah.
We got too many things in our cloud.
I mean, the only reason I'm asking, I've seen a lot of septic systems put in. Granted, they're mostly north and they're not near the lake, but you know, soils in many cases, and granted, it all is about the soil, but you can have an Ontario silt loam and then
So there's a letter that I wrote to Mike when he flagged the steep slopes area, but if you scroll down, Mike, to a couple of things that a couple of the photos that I included. First of all, there's our site. And outlined in yellow are the slopes generally affecting us, and the percent slope, when you calculate it from one end to the other, as the density of the contours increases, the slope increases as well. And you can see that the slope on the other side of the tennis court is steeper than anything we have, for sure. What we intend to do is replace that existing garage with a new garage that will become part of the retaining wall system that will hold up the system to the grades that we specify in the retaining wall system proposed. Mike, if you might just go to the next one down. Yeah, that's what Encore spoke about, which really didn't show the tennis court. And if you go down one more, that's one that I did on, is it 4692? Yeah, I think it's, yeah, 4629. And you can see the concrete retaining walls right there. And if you scroll down a little bit, Mike, you'll see they have the same slopes per Encore. I didn't bother to call up the other stuff on that, but
That's a big slope on that one, though. I know that.
yeah, and we're dealing with the same stuff. I mean, it's a technique.
you're basically just a stepped raised bed.
Yes.
In other words, what you're
Yes.
trying to do.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the only thing, in my years of doing this, that's the only way I can get it approved with the New York State Health Department. They won't, they're very, very firm about what they're willing to accept. In this, and I've seen others who have designed systems with, landscape timbers for retaining walls. I don't personally think that's a good solution. I don't think has a lot of longevity. If I'm going to put that much money into a system, I think I want to make sure that it's there for quite some time. But that's a really good example, and you can find that on Encore. And it's very noticeable from the lake, thinking they may be landscaping it soon. But that's what we had to do there. Same technique, much larger home, more bedrooms and such, but that's the system we came up with that was approved by the health department.
Any other comments from people in the audience?
Yes, just a quick comment. This is Ron Newbold. Ron and Tammy Newbold, we live just to the north of the subject property. We did also send a letter. Our main concern is not further deviation from existing setback guidelines. So I think the presenter at least suggested you'll try to live within those on the house side. I think across the street, the owner's in a tough spot, referencing the property to the south of the subject property. The difference there is the owner had a lot of property above his garage, which the subject property does not. We suffered flooding, as did the subject property in 2022 and 24. So we do have concerns about increases in runoff. We're hoping that perhaps working with the owner, the town and county might consider deepening the ditches. It's hard to say, we don't know, but flooding has continued to increase. So any runoff that is at the north end of I think it's the property where the septic system would go, as well as to the south. Those are our main concerns about increased flooding. The slope of the road in that section runs north, and so runoff comes toward our property. and it certainly impacted the subject property as well.
That's correct. I happened to be there on July 4th, driving down Westlake Road when it hit, and I happened to see the owner of this property out in the middle of the road in his wading boots, as the water was cascading over Westlake Road, as though it was a weir. And that's the same situation that I encountered about 5 doors to the north with Jim Gould, the former owner of the tennis court property. He had a major washout go right through his living room. You can see the riprap that we placed on his gully, but when that overflowed, it flowed right into the garage and right into his living room. When I first met him, he was shoveling out his living room. So I'm very familiar with the situation there, and in speaking with the owner of 4771, we have come up with another revision of what we showed originally in terms of elevating the house to avoid the flooding that he received on that during those time periods. But I don't see how our project is increasing significantly the runoff. Granted, we'll be removing some vegetation, but we'll be replacing the vegetation. We will have some retaining walls where there was just vegetation, but that's a minor amount of area. We're staying largely within the parameters of the existing cottage in terms of its setbacks and such. So, but what I learned from past experience is that the flooding really originates further up the hill. And a lot of it depends on how that land is farmed above us and how the soil is tilled and when the storms hit. Things that are beyond the control of the people who live right on the lake. I said it to the planning board and I'll say it to you. We're doing the best we can do with a very small piece of property and trying to make it improvable and in conformance not only with the zoning regulations, but also with the health department regulations.
Okay, anything further?
I just have one more question. It's Chelsea from 4764. I'm just wondering, and I, maybe need to read the plans a little better, more detail, but is the home that is being proposed to be built so much larger that can the system be a little smaller? Like is the size of the house that they're building requiring such a big system that's going to take up so much of that?
That's a good question, and I think intuitively, you would think that is the case. However, the state health department requires us to design systems based on the number of bedrooms and not the size of the house so much as the number of bedrooms. And one of the things that we did as we got into this is we submitted our preliminary architectural plans to Tyler to confirm the number of bedrooms and the size we would need to be. So that's what's taken into consideration. I think we have 4 bedrooms. I believe 4 bedrooms are proposed.
But that's what it is now, 4 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms are proposed. So not really larger.
Right.
In a sense.
That's how the health department does it.
Right. We know that.
It wasn't my idea.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There isn't anything else we can agree to postpone to
Adjourn it to next month.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is the amendment to the town charter.
Okay. You go out and start my car, would you?
self-starting car.
You know, it's funny, I used to always have one, last few, of them, I don't know, I have a garage.
I don't either.
My dad was bragging about his today, I know, Adam, I have a garage.
So with the referral, this is another one of those where we just kind of
Just discuss.
give an opinion if we have one.
So let's see. What are we
Basically, it's just
proposing?
allowing manufactured homes anywhere.
Anywhere?
Anywhere.
Just- Okay.
Right, yeah.
Currently, manufactured homes have to be in a manufactured home park district. This would allow them to be placed anywhere in a similar manner as a single family home, which is essentially what they are. And that complies with New York state law. The zoning board is being invited, if you so choose, to provide any comments you wish to the town board. If you
Okay,
don't
so
have comments,
what-
you don't have to make.
When we say manufactured home, we're not talking about, we're talking about like the mobile home, not necessarily the. You know, because you can have a manufactured home that's built like a regular house in pieces, you know, so.
Correct. But it doesn't just mean that. I don't.
All right.
I mean, it's a trailer.
We're specifically
These are
talking
single-
about,
Single wide.
oh, okay, okay.
Yes, correct.
Specifically
Single wides.
About trailers then, okay.
Just gonna let me
Single
put
wide,
my
okay.
new Tesla mini house on?
That's up next, Dave.
Yeah, Steve.
So if there's no, I mean, if you have comments or ideas to share with the town board, great. If not, we just move on to the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't really know if I have any. Do we have a huge, like, draw for it? I mean, do we? Really?
I couldn't think of a time when the zoning, I think there might have been one in the past 18 years where someone asked for a variance on this issue.
Yeah,
They had
I remember it.
20 acres somewhere and they wanted to put their mobile home on it instead of building a house. And I think you guys gave it, but I don't really remember that. It wasn't.
Actually, it was in the trailer park that I remember, that it was a rebuild or something and on a slab. But they tore it down
It was a
before.
public trailer park.
Yeah, they tore it down without consulting and wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remembered that, so, okay, that was all I remember.
Do they still allow that type of thing to go in my neighbor on New Michigan Road brought a single wide in there for his mother-in-law while they needed it. It was a health issue
Oh,
or
Like a
a
granny
temporary. It was like,
yeah,
do they allow that anymore or is that completely gone?
I don't know, Mike.
Yeah, I think they are going to allow that. I think we're working on that, to help with affordable housing.
like
in
the
this
granny
area.
pods,
Yes,
Yeah.
tiny houses or whatever.
granny pods are.
And, but currently, I don't believe we are allowed to. I mean, if something else is there, yes.
Yeah.
You can, but you can't just like drop one in the middle of the. That's what they're trying to revise now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So you can. You have a big piece of property and you don't wanna build, and that was the thing, in residential lake district, everybody may have property there, a small piece, and they're like, I wanna build a mansion. I just wanna drop something there so I look at the lake, so that's what we're trying to do.
I didn't realize this,
I don't know how that was.
double rides aren't allowed in the RLD now.
No, they're not, nope.
Interesting, I don't know, I mean, do we comment or, I don't know if we really want to have to.
I don't know,
I don't have a
I don't
comment.
have a need to comment.
Yeah, I don't have a need to comment.
As long as it fits all the other
Great.
requirements.
Yeah.
And I think the chair could move on to the next agenda item as soon as you're satisfied there's no need to comment.
Okay.
There,
Next agenda is referrals from the town board.
all right,
Kind of what. Referrals from the manager, ordinance committee referrals. Any other business anybody has?
But we have to
We have to
decide on
go to
these.
our procedures.
Yeah. You have to vote on our stuff.
Don't we have to vote on the presentations today?
Mhm.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
We're getting there.
Hungry.
I know, right? My daughter keeps texting me, what do we have for dinner?
Well, having gotten that stuff out of the way.
I know.
Okay, let's go back.
Now we can. Oh, dear. This is 8 degrees.
Okay, Sandy Beach, we're tabling that. Hickox Road,
Good shed 10 foot there.
Yeah, I think this is fine.
fits into the neighborhood.
The neighbors closer, it's still,
Yeah.
it's not a significant amount.
Or motion.
Also fits in with where the driveway is.
Right.
Pardon me?
Fits in with where the driveway is.
Yeah.
I know, they're like, it was already there.
It looks like they had a single door.
Yeah, right.
Going towards the.
Well, the neighbor has one right across
Oh,
the street,
please.
so.
CPN 2024-132. Shall the 10-foot front setback variance be granted? Shannon Chevy,
Yes,
Jason Outhouse,
Yes.
David Emery,
Yes.
Kelly Boyd,
yes.
Jim Sandler.
Yeah. Had it presented tonight and, the, variance is not a substantial one. Not change the character of the neighborhood.
You can say there was literally the same situation across the street already. They had a shed right in
It's a
the,
little different.
yeah, it's in the front of the house.
Okay, that's the character of the neighborhood in a way.
Yeah, I guess.
No objection from the neighbors and it's not that substantial.
And now the neighbors are gonna come in for a little. So.
Conditioned on as presented tonight and, 1 year to build the shed. Okay. Next one is on Chatham Lane, the generator. Any problem with that? Call that question?
Yeah, it would have been nice if they had the neighbor.
CPN 2024-132. Shall the variance shall be requested 2.3 foot side setback variance be granted? Shannon Chevy,
Yes, but isn't it CPN 2024-136?
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
shall the requested 2.3 foot side setback variance be granted? Shannon Chevy,
Yes,
Jason Outhouse,
Yes.
David Emery,
Yes.
Kelly LaVoy,
Yeah,
Chip
Yes.
Sally.
Yes. This is, it's not a substantial. Again, the generator is not a substantial structure. There are others in the neighborhood, so it's keeping in the neighborhood. I noticed several others. It is shielded by shrubbery. The location of the generator is somewhat dictated by the wiring.
there's other utilities right by it, that's where the
Right.
split and everything is.
she said the neighbor didn't have any issue, but we didn't have a letter.
Conditions again would be as presented, and also be done within a year. Okay, moving right along. 3729 County Road 16.
There's only listed for one variance now.
Right.
But
No, that's
I
right.
think we were, I guess maybe his ECB had recommended not to approve the lot coverage, but they took that away. I don't think they said anything about the,
No, they didn't. I was at the meeting.
yeah.
So they're just concerned because. Again, lot coverage is more.
Well, they did what was suggested by somebody, I can't remember, it was planning board, that would be getting rid of some of the decking, but get the coverage now, so. You else have any thoughts?
It's no greater of a non-conformity than it exists today, as far as the setback. They're keeping it in line with where everything else.
Call the question.
Sure, CPN 2024 140. Shall the requested rear setback variance of 10 feet be granted? Shannon Chevy,
Yes.
Jason House,
Yes.
David Emery,
Yes.
Ellie LaVoy,
Yes.
Chip Saley.
Yes. As presented tonight, the variance does not, the variance is no worse than before, does not increase the
Non-conformity.
non-conformity, yeah. Leaves it the same. Guess we don't need to mention that they did make changes to.
We
reduce
can.
it to
Oh,
just
yeah, I
one-
was gonna say it's
They-
stronger
they
point, so.
Made changes to reduce it to just one variance.
Right.
Just good faith. It's not a substantial variance.
Keeps in with the other, with the neighborhood.
Right.
We already did the question.
We did.
Yeah. No, that was all we had, right?
And then, for 771 will be continued. Looks like they're listening to the planning board on that, or gonna maybe get
Yeah.
rid of the house. Variables.
That'd be good.
That's interesting. We've got aerobic system in Vermont, which is it's on a slope. There's a wall. Big rip-rap stone wall that supports it all, and that Vermont's really tough.
Yeah, they are
We're only about
particular
50
about-
feet from the lake.
Really? That's interesting.
I might look it up, I might just send him. I get mixed up about aerobic versus.
Right.
You know, what the types of aerobic are. But it's not a very large area.
Yeah. Have we closed the public? hearing?
Pardon me?
Have we closed the public hearing? Like, have we closed? I got a question that I want to offer.
So, I don't think I was gonna try and put on the agenda our procedures. We have any procedures that are changed? You usually do that in January. I haven't seen anything.
I vaguely remember doing it like,
We did last year because they made some changes to
Yeah.
our procedures. I think it was time of posting of
something.
or something.
I don't have any recommended changes this year. I don't know if staff does, but I haven't heard that they do.
I had asked Sarah that and I didn't hear anything back. Do we have to make a motion not to change our procedures? I guess.
No, they'll remain in effect until you change them.
Okay, so we don't have to make a motion.
Okay. Anything else?
The minutes were fine. I'll move to approve last month's minutes.
Yes,
Is that
motion,
a
that was a motion to approve, I believe.
I just said.
Second. All in favor?
Are we off the record or on it? Okay.
Anybody have anything else?
I didn't know whether we had to do the vice chair thing.
Yeah, you read it up last.
No, the town did that.
Okay.
The what?
Still me.
Well, I knew you were the chair. I just didn't know whether Kelly was still the vice chair.
I thought we did that before, but
I thought we did it last month.
or like 2 months ago or something.
We talked about it last
We
month.
talked
I don't
about it.
remember it being decided, but
But then.
Was that a motion to make Kelly vice chair? We
Yeah,
should do that,
okay.
Okay.
or make somebody vice chair, but
There a motion anyone?
I'd like to make a motion to make Kelly the vice chair.
I was like, Steve,
I'll second.
Discussion?
I know, it's
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Nah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All right, I think we're.
Thanks, Dave.
Haven't looked at the
Thank you.
project for next month, is it?
Not bad.
Bad, no. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
And I have to talk to all of you guys.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay,